Hello, everyone. We're just about to start. People are still assembling. And you're waiting in the wings. I'm not the MC, I'm just the virtual MC, and we're going to start shuffling people to sit down and stand back from the podium, and then you can see us. If you're having trouble getting sound, give us a shout. I'll be watching the stream. You beat me an extra and you get off stage. Okay. Just by way of introductions, my name's Eden. Friend Malcolm, Darlene is here and asked if I would assist. And also, Norma Bernard is here, Malcolm's mom. The kids are here. Eric, I see Danielle, I see Caroline, I see yes, and friends, and some people will come up, as well as afterwards, since this will be on YouTube. We do encourage you afterwards to share some stories, because it's a celebration of life, and to go from
Eric and Emily's wedding, layers. Malcolm was layers. Some of us evolved as we were kids and got older and we changed. And Malcolm was each one of the layers he was. Wherever you met him, that was all of him. That was each part of him. And it really meant which part of Malcolm you connected to. So I knew him as a student. I knew him as a political analyst, partially as a broadcaster. I also knew him as a music lover because early on in my friendship with Malcolm, we took a drive to Myrtle, all-night drive to Myrtle Beach, in his that damn little Honda. The Honda drove as fast as Malcolm could get it to go. That was the only issue on it. And when he decided he was done with driving and it was time for Mike to wake me up, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, at full blast and play is how he woke me up. And I was with him. And we made it to Myrtle Beach. And part of his next adventure there. For the rest of the stories, there's a couple people who've asked to speak, and that's great. And someone else would like to speak. That's also terrific. Peter, I will let you introduce yourself, come up and share a few words.
Hello, everybody. What a beautiful day that Malcolm has cooked up. It's hot. I met Malcolm when I was 10 years old. A kid with the thick glasses who moved in about a 10-minute walk away from my house. We ended up going in Scouts together, and very quickly we both loved canoeing together. So that's where we got our love of the outdoors, which we all know Malcolm has also very well. Then, fast forward to CEGEP. Malcolm and I were at CEGEP, and what do you know, I was best friends with the founder of the John Abbott College Music Festival. That was an experience and a half. We then kind of both at roughly the same time kind of paused our education to pursue different things. I was an assistant manager at McDonald's. He went into broadcasting. Bit of a difference there. But we ended up as roomies. And what Edie said is really true. Malcolm had a lot of layers, and now I learned this ultra curious, very political guy, which I never knew before. And we were roomies, and I got so much inside scoop on Quebec politics. I was lucky. Then we separated, career-wise and everything, and we ended up back together at Concordia University in the early 80s, and roomies again. And that was some of the best times in my life, especially Tuesday nights. On Tuesday nights, we didn't have a class, either of us, until about 2:30 the next afternoon. So we stayed up late Tuesday night, till whenever. And we discussed the problems of the world. We solved them sometimes, but more often we lamented at their unsolvability. But it was an exchange of views and agreement and disagreements. And I can say that I've never loved disagreeing more than with Malcolm, because it was strictly on the issues. It was never personal. We had something so deep that you could say anything. Then we went on to our careers. We both raised our families. We touched base every so often. And sometimes it took a while, 3 months, 6 months. But with Malcolm, and I hope with all of you, when you touch base with him, it's like it was yesterday that you had seen him. You could reconnect, discuss all the things we were mutually interested in. So now, lest I forget. My birthday is on January 31st. Malcolm's birthday is on February 1st. So on my birthday, we would both go out together on the town and celebrate my birthday. The drinks were on him until midnight. And after midnight, they were on me. A good exchange, I would think. You drink more before than after. Now, the drink's gonna be all on me. But that's okay. As I said, we connected every time we touched base. And, well, it'll be a little while, but I can't wait to reconnect with him again. Thank you very much.
So I always thought of Malcolm as being several steps ahead of me. I met him when I was working at what was CEDA and is now part of Foreign Affairs, and I was a brand new, very snarky consultant in communications. And I met someone who was not as new and a whole lot snarkier. We just sort of had glancing blows within the first year that I worked there, and then he came back and wanted me to work with him, and has done so several times in the 23 years since we first met. And over that time, I first saw him as just a client, and then a client that I hang out with, and then a client who's also a friend. And finally, when I discovered that even if there was no work forthcoming, he was still a friend. And I wanted to hang out with him no matter what, because he's a really interesting guy. Now, it's a rare thing to be filling both those circles, and it's something he did very comfortably. Now, I'd known him for maybe 5 or 6 years when he confessed to me, under the influence, no doubt, of a certain quantity of the magic potion from Scotland, that he was an introvert.
Yes.
And I was also under same said influence, and I was incredulous. Listen, Malcolm, the consummate media man, the man as comfortable in a media scrum as he was in front of this fireside chat, how could this be? I mean, he's hobnobbed with the best and the greatest lights of Ottawa and the country. How can he be introvert? But over time, I began to realize that some of the classic characteristics of an introvert were something he held quite close to himself. First, he was a lot less sure of himself than he appeared on the outside. Over time, little things would slip out. He had doubts about his approach. He had doubts about what he was doing. He had doubts about his career. He had doubts about family. He had doubts about whether he was doing things right. And it's something that I found very odd coming from someone who seemed so much more well-established than I was. In his career, he saw the same fog that I do. I can't tell what's happening next, where things are going. I thought that would clear someday, and here's someone who launched Nunavut, still sees that same fog, and it was reassuring in a long way. Oh, everyone sees that fog. The other thing that 2 of 3 introverted characteristics is he was astonishingly eclectic in interests. He was into everything. I had the great fortune of, just because I was nearby and I saw him a few days before he passed, and I was blessed that we had a completely normal conversation in the sense that we talked about everything under the sun. We talked about his family, we talked about my family, we talked about his career, my career, we talked about Canadian politics, we talked about Ukraine, we talked about AI, we talked about music, all in about 90 minutes. And he was completely that same baritone bonhomie that he always was, despite the fact that he had about 36 hours left on his clock. He was just entirely himself. And as with every one of our conversations, I walked away going, I thought of that. But there's another thing, this sort of esprit d'escalier that happened after I had conversations with Malcolm. And all those many eclectic interests, there were so many things that he was keen on and well-educated on, thoughtful on, because he wanted to be prepared before he spoke, that in the past 6 weeks, how many times have I thought, here's something I really have to tell Malcolm. And then I realize he's gone. And I lose him all over again. And it's a testimony to the breadth of his character that there are many, many moments and they're going to keep happening. You know, that's a very funny thing. I wonder what Malcolm would think. Or what would he think about this latest news? Because he always had an opinion and was always well informed and we could always disagree. It was fantastic to talk about. The last characteristic I'd like to sort of delve into of his introversion is that I think he underestimated himself. Despite his massive CV, things that I could only dream to have done, he always felt that he wasn't really where he should be in the world. Maybe he wasn't having the effect on people in the world that he expected to. Maybe he didn't affect people around him that much. And to that, well, I wish you could see the love in this room, because it's here. Thank you.
So in a room full of communication specialists, I didn't write down what to say. So it'll be read. Thing about loss is that it's just not a one-time event. You don't lose somebody once, as we touched on. You lose them over and over again. However, grief is an emotion that knocks on the door of memory, which can let you come back to something that can be self-controlled. It asks you to come back and revisit that person, those memories, over and over again. Loss can evolve into a celebration of the life and the moments that we shared with them. Thankfully, I've got so much of my dad in me, I get to revisit him all the time. Every time I catch my baby blues, my freckles, my lanky limbs in the mirror, when I'm up at the crack of dawn with my coffee, enjoying an hour or two of peace and quiet, and the rest of the world wakes up. Each book I pick up will remind me of how my love of reading came to be. I'm not sure if anyone in the room, maybe a few, I've had the privilege of having a former radio announcer read me bedtime stories, but let me tell you, it is a formative experience and it will shape who you are as a person. A certain golem impersonation reading The Hobbit left 6-year-old me sleepless, which oddly enough is a really fond memory. I'll think of it every time I muster up the courage to bring the razzle dazzle to the function, also being a reformed shy kid. Picking up the newspaper, the Globe, never the Star, will bring back those mornings sitting and reading, which really meant me graduating from the comics section to the lifestyle section, and eventually the grown-up section when my dad obviously reached for first. There are so many classic albums I will bring back sitting on the tan leather seats in that burgundy Cadillac, if you know, you know, listening to track 1 through the end, accompanied by a deep dive on music history and theory. Dr. Dre's The Chronic will always remind me of when I started driving by myself and got to rifle through my dad's library in his car and realize that he's got real depth and multitudes when it comes to artists and really cool taste for a middle-aged guy. I've got a small arsenal in my pantry of pickled, preserved, jam, jelly, candied harvest from my dad and Darlene's talents, a small plot intensive farmers that actually might never help. A refinement of the art of first draft, best draft, only draft will probably only get better, thanks to learning from the best of the best. How lucky am I that I get to revisit my dad for something as simple as waffles. The secret of whipping the egg whites separately for the fucked results will follow me forever. I hope that's what I can leave you today, a way to stay in touch and to find gratitude in being able to revisit my dad, and you reach for all those memories that we've got with him. And trust me, nothing would make him happier than those memories being the ones that bring a smile or laugh. Thank you all for coming.
I, unlike my father, do not share the same skills that he has with words. So all I have to say to you all here is thank you all for being here. I know you would have been thrilled to see all the smiling faces in this room here today. Thank you all for being here.
Now that's going to be slightly
slightly less short. I promise I'll try to be just as sweet. But for those of you who may not have seen me in a little while, I'm Danielle. I'm the youngest of the trio. Despite being the youngest, I was immensely fortunate to have so many moments and memories with my dad that I get to share. And you know, those who know me well know that I am a very big fan of making puns and terrible, terrible dad jokes. And Dad is the one who gets the credit for that, or the blame, depending on how you like to put that. We spent many evenings around the dinner table trading puns back and forth in a category, and you weren't allowed to make the same pun twice, which is how I got so darn good at that, and I apologize to all of you in advance. But thanks to that, it had me learning how to be fast on my feet while thinking of all those puns, and it definitely contributed to that quick wit that some like to say I have. Now, I gained my love for many things thanks to my dad. Like Caroline mentioned, our love of reading, listening to music from decades past. Can't forget the amount of times that I would be driving somewhere in the car with Dad chauffeuring me around, as he was so kind to do, and listening to 1940s jazz. Always really fun. And, you know, I got to play the piano for many years, and that all stemmed from him. You couldn't find me without a book or three that I was plowing right through, or finding songs that I wanted to share with him when I got the chance. But one thing that Dad and I never shared was his love of coffee. Despite him trying his best, I still can't stand it. But one of my fondest memories as a preteen, I would get to grind his coffee beans for him if I woke up early enough to get to do so. And years later, he would always try to convince me that, you know, by the time university rolled around, I would change my opinion on coffee and find it to be the next best thing in the world. Yeah, I'm still firmly the camp of hot chocolate is the best thing on the planet, especially for waking up with the sweet stuff in the morning. Now, I was and will always remain immensely grateful for the love and support that I got from my dad growing up. He was always in my corner, supporting me in my endeavors and ensuring I would never fall for anyone's bullshit at any time with that lovely bullshit detector. It was one of the reasons why I'm always so quick with those rebuttals, and it really contributed to my Rolodex of fun facts that I like to share. On behalf of all three of us, I would just like to thank you so much, all of you, for coming. We really appreciate it. It's really wonderful to get to see all the love that my dad shared and was shared with him just very short. Thank you.
One of those things about layers is they accumulate over time and they just get higher and higher, which means conversations with Malcolm when we first met were short and sweet and to the point. And our conversations in the 80s, when we first met, tended to be about his mom and his dad, and the impact that they had on his life. And there generally wasn't a conversation since the 80s where what was going on with mom and dad, or mom or dad, or issues, or what he learned, or what he didn't learn, or what he wished he didn't learn. Because we were at the point in our friendship where we were really comfortable disagreeing with each other, and he was especially good at it. And we hit the 90s, and then which there goes, again, right in front. And then the kids arrived, and again, since the 90s, there's not a single conversation that Malcolm and I had, for good or bad, that didn't include the kids. And every single conversation, the kids, and Anne's family, which were part of who he was. And 7 years ago, he meets Darlene and her family, and every single conversation is now mom and dad, the kids, Darlene, and all of these layered up. And in between were all the various contracts. I know Jeff alluded to it, all the various interests that Malcolm had. So when I look here, I see Malcolm. So for those of you who have a drink, please raise a glass. Go on, Brandon. And he has a glass there of his favorite drink from the Rideau Club, and a special thank you to the Rideau Club for the staff, the management who are hosting us here, and what they've done for us. So, unless there's someone else who has something to, oh, please, perfect.
My name is Jane Bridges. I'm the president of the Vita Club. And I'm gonna cry. And I'm gonna read. I first met Malcolm in 2016 when I joined the Rita Club. Pretty sure he had a beard back then. He was sitting at a table, scheming with his friend Bill Lai, friend Paul Hessian, a few other members. I knew I was in trouble. Malcolm had joined the Rita Club in 2004. He'd been a member for 20 years. He loved this place. And right from the start, he left an impression on me. I've already talked about his deep baritone radio voice, commanding presence, his smile. It made him a natural head turner to whom many gravitated. Now, he would tell you it's his good looks, his charm, his witty remarks, but it was just really himself, his wisdom, his character, his personality that made people gravitate towards him. Malcolm was always someone that you can turn to for guidance, support, and of course a witty remark and a bit of dry humor. He also served on our board of directors for several years, most notably as our honorary secretary. But more than anything, he was a friend to me, a friend to many members who are here tonight, and to all of you. When I became chair of the board in 2022, the club was going through a little bit of a rough patch, and I needed help on how best to communicate and engage our members to make sure that they knew where we were going as a club and how we would get there. I needed to ensure our membership that we would be okay and that we would survive the challenges ahead, including COVID. And naturally, Malcolm was one of those friends I turned to. He gave me not only practical advice, but he also reassured me that I had the abilities to effectively lead the club through the tough times. He reminded me to be authentic, to inspire confidence, and to always be true to myself, many characteristics that he had himself. One night over a gin and tonic, of course, we worked through the challenges together. Malcolm, in his own special way, helped me simplify complex issues and turn them into clear, compelling messages. He summarized our challenges as FOMP, F-O-M-P, Finance, Operations, Membership, and People. I suggested that that wasn't the best acronym, to which he assured me it could have been much worse. And that I would remember that acronym likely more than I would my license plate, but you know, I remembered it. I can still hear him joking the night before our club annual general meeting when he sent me a text message in response to a typo in mine. I had meant to say, see you at the AGM tomorrow, and it came out as, see you at the fondue tomorrow. He responded, now a fondue would make a much better AGM. He reminded me that regardless of the acronym I chose, that I'm better to speak from the heart rather than reading from the script. Something true for us all. So here it goes. I will miss Malcolm. I will miss his place at the bar, the conversations that we had, the nonsense, his humor, his dad jokes, his conversations. He talked a lot about travel. He talked a lot about Darlene. He talked a lot about politics. There were many nights that he wished he could have closed the bar, talking and solving world problems, but alas, we all must go home. We talked about retirement and the never-ending world of consulting, and we shared laughs, we shared love, and we shared friendship. I was reminded today of the nonsense from one of the bar staff who said he was always good for conversation in the elevator on the way up, to which he suggested that maybe we take the stairs one day. Not gonna happen. So, the many things that I remember of Malcolm, I will always cherish. There were words that I never understood or sayings that he had in his back pocket when something deserved a saying that somebody needed an analogy for. But I'll end with a few other words, which, you know, even in the most serious of situations like today, I'm sure he would have had a really good joke or a really good saying or something to remind us all that, you know, sad moments are joyous moments as well. He had this ability to bring humor into even the most serious of our moments. He knew how much I enjoyed that, the nonsense, the breaking of the tense moments to remind us all that we're human and we shouldn't always take ourselves so seriously. That's something I'll always remember. He was a good friend, a brilliant communicator, and a good man. I'm grateful for all the time he gave to me as a friend and to our club, who will be deeply missed by all of us who were lucky enough to know. Thank you.
Is there someone else? And if not, then I'll ask Jeff to sort of turn off our screen. And then I think we're still here for another 45 minutes or so. Okay, thank you.